The fluorescent lights of St. Gabriel Medical Center hummed their eternal song at 2 in the morning, the kind of sound that became silence after enough night shifts, the kind that made you forget what real quiet felt like. Emma Sullivan moved through the emergency department with practiced efficiency. 45 years old, 20 years of military service reduced to a name badge that read RN in block letters. Her dark blonde hair threaded with silver was pulled back in a tight bun, the kind that stayed secure through 12-hour shifts and didn't draw attention. She'd learned not to draw attention. The young residents called her the old nurse. Not to her face. Never to her face. But hospital walls were thin and night shifts were long, and Emma heard everything. She didn't mind. Invisible was safer. Invisible meant no questions about the scars on her forearms. No questions about why a woman with her bearing her way of moving through chaos like she owned it was working night shifts for $18 an hour while raising a daughter alone. The trauma bay doors burst open. The sound cut through the quiet like a gunshot. Emma's hand tightened on the tablet she was holding. Old instincts, buried deep but never dead. Move, move, move. A gurney exploded into the corridor, 4 people in scrubs running alongside it. A young man strapped to the board, 19, maybe 20. Military haircut, dog tags visible above the collar of a hospital gown that someone had thrown over him in the ambulance. Blood, too much of it, soaking through the bandages on his chest. The kid's face was gray, lips with that blue tinge Emma had seen too many times in too many places that smelled like copper and cordite and fear. The gurney crashed through the trauma bay doors. They swung shut, but not all the way. Never all the way. Budget cuts meant broken pneumatics. Broken pneumatics meant Emma could see inside, could hear everything. Dr. Marcus Chen, 32 years old, second year attending. Brilliant on paper, competent in practice. Until he wasn't. What happened? Chen's voice pitched higher than usual, already losing the thread. GSW to the chest, the paramedic rattled off. Training accident at the base, multiple entry wounds, BP dropping. We lost pulses twice in the bus. Training accident. Chen's hands moved to pull on gloves. Hesitated. Training accidents don't look like this. Sir, that's what the report says. Chen stared at the kid, at the wounds, at the way the blood kept coming, no matter how much pressure the nurses applied. His face went pale. Emma stopped charting. The tablet felt different in her hands now. Heavier, or maybe lighter. Muscle memory was a strange thing. It could hide for years, then surface in a heartbeat. I need a central line kit, Chen shouted. Where's the someone get me? A nurse dropped the tray. Instruments clattered across the floor. The sound ricocheted off tile and metal in fear. The rapid transfuser, Chen spun. Where's the rapid transfuser? We're getting it. He doesn't have time. Look at his pressure. The monitor screamed. Blood pressure 60/40. Dropping. Heart rate 140. Climbing. Oxygen saturation 82%. Falling. The kid was dying right there, right in front of them. And they were fumbling, panicking, doing everything by the book, which meant they were doing everything too slow. Emma watched through the gap in the doors, her jaw tight, her breath controlled, in through the nose, out through the mouth, the way they'd taught her 25 years ago in a different place, a different life. The flatline hit like a physical blow. That single sustained tone that meant everything had stopped. The kid's chest went still. No rise, no fall. Just the terrible stillness of a body that had decided to quit. He's coding. Chen's voice cracked. Start compressions. Someone start compressions. A resident jumped up on the step stool. Young woman, athletic. She put her hands on the kid's chest and started pumping. Too fast, wrong rhythm, bouncing the patient instead of compressing the heart. Slower. Chen grabbed her shoulder. You're going too fast. I'm trying. Where's the airway kit? We need to intubate. I can't find the, just get it. Emma's hands had stopped moving entirely now. The tablet hung forgotten in her grip. Her eyes tracked everything, every mistake, every wasted second, every moment of chaos that could mean the difference between a mother getting her son back or getting a folded flag. Somewhere deep in her chest, something old woke up. Something she'd buried under 7 years of night shifts and parent-teacher conferences, and pretending she was just a woman who took vitals and administered medications. The sound of helicopter rotors filled her head. Phantom noise, PTSD trick. She knew it wasn't real, knew she was in Seattle, not Ramadi, not Kandahar, Not any of the dozen places where she'd knelt in sand and mud and blood and fought to keep hearts beating that wanted to stop. But the kid on that table, the wounds, the panic, the waste of it all, her eyes closed, just for a second, just long enough to make a choice she'd sworn she wouldn't make again. When they opened, something had changed behind them. Emma set the tablet on the counter. Carefully, deliberately, she pulled a pair of gloves from the box on the wall. Then she walked toward the trauma bay doors. Not fast, not rushing, just steady, inevitable. The way the tide comes in. She pushed through the doors. The chaos swallowed her. No one noticed at first. They were too busy panicking, too busy failing to see a middle-aged nurse step into their disaster. Emma moved to the side of the gurney. The resident was still doing compressions, still bouncing the kid, still wasting effort. "Step aside," Emma said, her voice quiet, calm, but it carried, the voice of someone who'd given orders in gunfire and expected them to be followed. The resident looked up. "What?" "Step aside." Dr. Chen spun around, his eyes wild. "Emma, you can't be in here. This is a code. We need—" "Step aside, doctor." Emma's voice didn't change volume, didn't need to. It had command in it, authority that came from somewhere deeper than rank or title. It came from competence, from certainty, from having done this 1,000 times when it mattered most. Chen stared at her. For a moment, the room hung in balance. Then something in her face, in her bearing, in the absolute confidence of her stance made him move. The resident climbed down from the stool. Emma took her place. Her hands settled on the young soldier's chest. Right position, perfect placement, no hesitation. She started compressions. Deep, controlled, exactly 100 per minute. The rhythm locked in like a metronome, like breathing, like something so practiced it lived in her bones. "Who the hell are you?" Chen whispered. Emma didn't answer. Her focus absolute, her hands working. Chest rose, chest fell, blood started moving again. Not much, but enough. "Wrong rhythm before," Emma said, her voice level. No judgment, just fact. "You were bouncing him, not compressing. 30 compressions, then 2 breaths, watch." Her hands never stopped, never wavered. The room went quiet except for the monitor beeps, except for the sound of Emma's breathing. Steady, controlled. The eye of a storm. "I need a 14-gauge angiocath," Emma said. "Second intercostal space. He's got a tension pneumothorax and you're too scared to needle him." Chen's face went white. "I wasn't sure if—" "Now I'm sure." Emma's eyes never left the kid's chest. "Get it." A nurse thrust the needle into her hand. Emma accepted it without looking, without breaking rhythm. She found the spot by feel, by experience, by having done this in the dark, in the dirt, in places where there were no monitors or clean rooms or second chances. She inserted the needle. One smooth motion, confident, final. The hiss of escaping air cut through the room, loud, immediate, pressure releasing. The kid's chest expanded, real expansion this time. Not the shallow gasping of a collapsed lung. The monitor changed. Blood pressure climbing, oxygen saturation rising, heart rate steadying. The kid gasped. A real breath. His eyes fluttered. His hand twitched. Emma stepped back, stripped off the gloves, dropped them in the biohazard bin, turned and walked toward the door. Just like that. No fanfare, no waiting for thanks, just a job done. Just another night. "Wait." Chen's voice stopped her at the door. "Emma, where did you learn to do that?" Emma paused, didn't turn around. "Doesn't matter, doctor. Kid's breathing. That's all that counts." She pushed through the doors, back into the corridor, back to her tablet. She picked it up, started charting again. Same routine, same invisible woman doing an invisible job. But behind her through the gap in the doors, she heard Chen's voice. "Someone find out who she really is. Find out right now." The break room at St. Gabriel smelled like old coffee and microwave meals at 6 in the morning. Emma sat at a small table near the window, the one nobody else wanted because the vinyl chair was cracked and the view was just the parking lot. She drank black coffee from a thermos she'd brought from home and watched the sunrise through dirty windows. Her phone sat face down on the table. 3 missed calls from her daughter Sophie, 16 years old, probably wondering why mom wasn't home yet. Emma would text her in a minute, let her know the shift ran long, that she'd be home before Sophie left for school. The door banged open. 3 residents stumbled in, end of their shift, looking like hell, talking too loud. "Did you see Sullivan last night?" The tall male resident grabbed coffee. The ER nurse, she straight up took over Chen's code. You mean the old nurse who works nights? The female resident laughed. Tired laughter. What about her? Saved that SEAL's life. Did a needle decompression like it was nothing. Chen said he froze. Said Sullivan just walked in and took over. Probably did it once in some military hospital 20 years ago and thinks she's hot shit. The third resident shook his head. These older nurses, they're dangerous. One wrong move and we get sued into oblivion. Chen said it wasn't wrong, said it was perfect. Said he'd never seen anything like it. Chen's in his second year. He thinks everyone's amazing. They laughed again. Emma drank her coffee. Didn't react. Didn't look up. Just another piece of furniture. Just another thing in the room they didn't really see. But her jaw was tight, her hand steady on the thermos, and somewhere behind her eyes something burned that hadn't burned in a long time. The door opened again, softer this time. A young woman stepped in, mid-20s, dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, navy blue scrubs, new badge that said Sarah Mitchell RN, and underneath in smaller letters the word that made Emma's hand stop halfway to her mouth, veteran. She moved different. The residents didn't see it, but Emma did. The way she scanned the room before entering, the way she kept her back never quite to a door, the way her eyes cataloged exits and threats and positions before she even reached for a coffee cup. Military bearing, you could hide it, but never completely, not if you'd really lived it. Sarah poured coffee, added sugar, her hands steady but scarred. Small burns on the knuckles, shrapnel scars on the forearms. Emma recognized them. She had her own. Sarah turned, surveyed the room for a seat. Her eyes passed over Emma, then came back, lingered. Something in Emma's posture, something in the way she held herself even slouched at a small table. She walked over, stood at the edge. Mind if I sit? Emma looked up, really looked. She saw the scars, saw the way Sarah stood, saw the weight she carried that had nothing to do with her small frame. Free country, Emma said, her voice neutral, giving nothing away. Sarah sat, wrapped both hands around her coffee cup, stared at it for a long moment, then looked at Emma direct. You were in the code last night, weren't you? Emma's expression didn't change. I work here, lots of codes. I heard the residents talking. Older nurse performed a needle decompression that saved a SEAL's life. Sarah's eyes stayed on hers. You were Navy, weren't you? Emma took a sip of coffee. Long time ago. Doesn't matter now. I was too. Sarah's voice quiet. Corpsman, served with Echo Team out of Coronado. Did 2 tours, Afghanistan, Iraq. Emma's hand tightened on the thermos, just slightly, just enough that someone watching close might notice. Echo Team, she said. I know that name. You should. We made the news 3 years ago. Sarah's voice went flat. Ashfall Pass, the extraction that was delayed 18 minutes because some admiral wanted to avoid bad optics during his press conference. 2 good men died in those 18 minutes. I was the corpsman who watched them bleed out while we waited for birds that should have already been there. The room got quieter, or maybe it was just that Emma's focus narrowed, locked onto her, onto those words. Ashfall Pass, she knew that name too. Knew it better than Sarah realized. I'm sorry, Emma said, and meant it. Everyone's sorry. Sarah laughed. Bitter sound. Sorry doesn't bring them back. Sorry doesn't explain why I'm here pushing pills in a civilian hospital instead of with my team. Sorry doesn't. Mitchell, the voice cut across the break room. Sharp, authoritative. Diana Chen stood in the doorway. Charge nurse, 52 years old, built like a bulldog, face like she'd been chewing lemons. Stop bothering Sullivan and get to your station. You're already on thin ice. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she stood. Yes, ma'am. Diana's eyes flicked to Emma, dismissive. Sullivan, the supply closet on 3 needs restocking. Someone forgot to do it yesterday. Emma nodded. Yes, ma'am. Diana left. Sarah hesitated, looked back at Emma. For what it's worth, she said quietly. Thank you for last night. That kid you saved, he's one of us. Word travels fast in the community. They're saying it was a miracle. But I know better. I know skill when I see it. She walked away, left Emma sitting alone with her coffee and her memories and a name that kept echoing in her head. Ashfall Pass. She'd heard about it when it happened, read the after-action reports, the sanitized versions, the ones that blamed equipment, failure, and bad weather, and everything except the admiral who'd made a political calculation that cost 2 lives. Admiral Richard Vaughn, rising star, now stationed at Joint Special Operations Command. making decisions that affected warriors he'd never stood beside, never bled with. Emma had known about Vaughn for years, had filed reports, had tried to speak up about procurement fraud and endangered operations, and been told to stand down, to stay in her lane, to remember her place. She drained her coffee, crushed the thermos cap back on, then picked up her bag and headed for the parking lot. Because that was her life. That was what happened when you were a woman who spoke truth to power, and power decided you were the problem. Invisible, forgotten, working night shifts while the world moved on without you. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out. Text from Sophie. Mom, where are you? I have a test today. Need you to quiz me. Emma typed back. Be home in 20. Put coffee on. We'll run through it. Another buzz. Different number. Unknown. Area code 757. Virginia, Hampton Roads, where the Navy kept its headquarters. Emma stared at the screen, every instinct screaming to let it go to voicemail, to stay invisible, to stay safe. But you couldn't bury 20 years of service. Not completely. Not when someone on the other end of that line might need something only you could give. She answered, Sullivan. The voice that responded was younger, official, tight with stress. Petty Officer Sullivan, this is Commander Jacob Stone, Joint Special Operations Command. I need you to listen very carefully. The SEAL you saved last night, Petty Officer Marcus Hayes, he was part of a classified operation. An operation that went wrong, very wrong, and somebody just tried to kill him again. In his hospital room, 30 minutes ago. Emma's hand tightened on the phone. Her free hand found the car door, steadied herself. Why are you telling me this, Commander? Because Hayes is asking for you. Won't talk to anyone else. Won't let anyone touch him except the woman who saved his life. He says you have the look. Says you're field qualified. Says he'd bet his life you've been downrange more times than his entire team combined. Emma said nothing. Let the silence stretch. Let Stone fill it. Petty Officer, I know who you are. I know why you left. I know what Vaughn did to force you out. And I know that what's happening right now, Hayes getting shot, Hayes getting targeted in a secure facility, this is connected to something bigger. Something that goes back to Ashfall Pass. Something Vaughn is trying to bury. I'm retired, Commander. I work night shifts. I have a daughter. That's all I do now. Ma'am, with respect, that's not who you are. Stone's voice hard now, direct. You don't stop being who you are because they took your uniform. You don't stop being a warrior because they gave you scrubs. Hayes needs you. The Navy needs you. And I think you need this too. I think you've been waiting 7 years for someone to ask you to be who you really are again. Emma closed her eyes, saw her reflection in the car window. Middle-aged woman in scrubs. Dark blonde hair streaked with silver. Tired eyes. Invisible. Then saw something else. The woman she used to be. The one who ran toward gunfire instead of away. The one who'd kept 38 men alive over 7 combat deployments. The one who'd looked Admiral Richard Vaughn in the eye and told him she'd rather lose her career than her soul. When do I start? Emma said. There's a helicopter landing on your hospital roof in 20 minutes. Be on it. The line went dead. Emma stood in the parking lot. Morning sun breaking through Seattle clouds. Her car waiting. Her daughter at home waiting. Her quiet life waiting. She looked at her phone, at the text from Sophie, at the picture of them together on her lock screen. Sophie's 16th birthday, 2 months ago. Both of them smiling. Emma pulled up her contacts, found Sophie's number, called. Sophie answered on the second ring. Mom, you okay? Baby, I need you to listen. Something's come up. Work thing, I might not be home for a while. How long is a while? I don't know, maybe a day, maybe more. Can you stay at Aunt Rachel's? Silence on the other end, then Sophie's voice quieter. This isn't about work, is it? This is about the other thing, the Navy thing. Emma's throat tightened. Sophie knew, had always known, even though Emma never talked about it. Kids were smart that way. Yes, Emma said, it's about that. Are you going to be safe? I'm going to try. Mom, Sophie's voice broke. I already lost Dad. I can't lose you too. Emma felt tears behind her eyes. Didn't let them fall. You won't. I promise. But there's someone who needs help. Someone who served. And I'm the only one who can help him. You understand? Long pause. Then Sophie stronger. I understand. That's who you are. That's who you've always been, even when you were pretending not to be. I love you, baby. I love you too, Mom. Go save somebody, but come home. I will. Emma ended the call, put the phone in her pocket. Then she pulled out her keys, opened the trunk. Behind the spare tire and the emergency kit and the jumper cables, there was a small case, locked. She hadn't opened it in 7 years. She opened it now. Inside, a few items: dog tags on a chain, a challenge coin from her last deployment, a photograph of her husband James in his Marine uniform. He'd died 8 years ago, IED in Helmand province, left her with a 6-month-old baby and a hole in her chest that never quite healed. And underneath, wrapped in cloth, a combat knife. Gerber LMF2, used, maintained, ready. She took the dog tags, put them on, the metal cold against her skin, under her scrubs, then warm, then just right, like they'd never left. She closed the trunk, locked it, straightened her shoulders. The slight hunch she'd cultivated for 7 years disappeared. Her spine locked straight, her chin came up, her eyes found focus they'd been missing. The scrubs suddenly looked different on her, not like defeat, like camouflage, like the disguise it had always been. Emma walked back toward the hospital, not to her car, to the building, to the roof, to whatever came next. She moved through the hospital different now, no more invisible. People noticed, people stepped aside. Something in her bearing had changed, something that made even the residents who'd been mocking her 2 hours ago suddenly find somewhere else to be. She reached the stairwell, the one that led to the roof, started climbing. The sound of helicopter rotors grew louder. Closer. Real this time, not phantom noise. Not PTSD. Real. She burst through the roof access door. Wind hit her. Cold Seattle morning, gray sky, and descending through the clouds a Navy helicopter. Black, unmarked, serious. Hospital staff poured onto the roof behind her. Diana Chen, Dr. Marcus Chen, 3 residents, Sarah Mitchell hanging back, all staring, all confused. The helicopter touched down. Side door opened. Commander Stone jumped out, uniform crisp, face hard. He spotted Emma, saluted. "Petty Officer Sullivan, thank you for coming." The residents behind them gasped. Someone's phone started recording. Diana Chen's mouth fell open. Emma returned the salute, then looked back at Sarah. "Mitchell, you coming or staying?" Sarah stared at her, at the helicopter, at Stone waiting, at the choice in front of her. Then she smiled, small, dangerous, the smile of someone who'd been waiting for permission to stop hiding. "I didn't survive Ashfall Pass to hide in a hospital, Petty Officer." "I'm in." Emma nodded, turned to Stone. "She comes with me, non-negotiable." Stone looked at Sarah, saw what Emma saw, the scars, the bearing, the fire behind the fear. "Works for me. Let's move." They ran for the helicopter. Diana Chen's voice cut through the rotor wash. "Sullivan, you can't just leave. You have a shift. You have responsibilities." Emma paused at the helicopter door, looked back. All those faces staring. The young residents who'd mocked her. The charge nurse who treated her like furniture. The hospital that had given her a job but never respect. "Tell administration I quit," Emma said, her voice carrying, command voice, the one that didn't need to shout to be heard. "Tell them Emma Sullivan is done being invisible. Tell them the corpsman is back." She climbed aboard, Sarah right behind her. The door slid shut. The helicopter lifted. Hospital staff scattered in the rotor wash. Phones recording, faces shocked. The invisible middle-aged nurse ascending into the sky like something out of a dream or a nightmare or a legend they'd told themselves wasn't real. Inside the helicopter, Emma buckled in, felt the familiar vibration, the familiar smell of fuel and metal, the familiar weight of purpose settling onto her shoulders. Stone handed her a tablet. "Hayes is stable but scared." Someone walked into his room, nurse's uniform, had a syringe. Succinylcholine would have looked like a heart attack if it worked. Hayes hit the call button. The person ran. Security couldn't find them. Happened 43 minutes ago. Succinylcholine, Emma's jaw tight. Military training, medical knowledge, inside access. That's what we thought, which is why we're moving him to a secure location. Underground facility. No one knows about it except us. And you need me to keep him alive until you figure out who burned him. We need you to do what you do best, Petty Officer. Protect your brothers, no matter what. Emma looked out the window, watched Seattle fall away below, the hospital getting smaller, her old life shrinking into memory, and ahead somewhere in the clouds a new mission. Or maybe an old one she'd never really finished. Sarah sat across from her face pale but determined. "What did I just volunteer for?" Emma met her eyes. The truth, Mitchell. We're volunteering for the truth, whatever that costs. The helicopter banked east, morning sun breaking through clouds, the sound of rotors drowning out everything else. And Emma Sullivan, 45 years old, single mother, invisible nurse, felt something she hadn't felt in 7 years. She felt ready. The helicopter touched down in a field 30 miles outside Seattle. Grass bent flat under rotor wash. Trees shivered at the edges of a clearing that shouldn't exist on any map, but did. Emma stepped out first, muscle memory guiding her crouch under the blades. Sarah followed, less practiced, but learning fast. Commander Stone waited until they cleared the aircraft before jumping down himself. This way. Stone led them toward what looked like an abandoned barn, red paint peeling, roof sagging, the kind of structure farmers left to rot when the land stopped paying. But the door was new, steel core behind weathered wood, and the lock was biometric. Stone pressed his thumb to the scanner. The door clicked open. Inside the barn was hollow, empty except for a vehicle elevator set into the concrete floor. Industrial, government grade. The kind of thing that cost 6 figures and didn't appear on any public contract. They descended, the platform lowering into darkness before lights flickered on. Underground facility. Clean, climate-controlled. Medical equipment along one wall. Monitors showing exterior camera feeds. And in the center, a hospital bed where Marcus Hayes lay connected to IVs and monitors 2 MPs standing guard at the door. Hayes looked up when they entered. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear. Alert. He saw Emma and something in him relaxed. Just slightly, the tension leaving his shoulders. You came, Hayes said, his voice rough. They said you would. I wasn't sure I believed them. Emma approached the bed, checked the monitors with practiced eyes. Heart rate elevated but stable. Blood pressure acceptable. Oxygen good. How are you feeling, son? Like someone used me for target practice, then tried to finish the job with a syringe. Hayes glanced at the MPs. No offense to these guys, but I don't trust anyone in uniform right now, except you. That's smart. Emma adjusted the IV flow rate. Too fast. Someone had said it wrong. Tell me what happened, from the beginning. Hayes took a breath, winced, ribs still healing. 3 weeks ago, I was assigned to a courier mission. Simple job. Pick up a package from a duty facility in Virginia. Transport it to JSOC headquarters. No one told me what was in the package. That's not unusual. Most of our work is compartmentalized. But you looked, Sarah said. Not a question, a statement. Hayes met her eyes. I looked. Package came loose during transport. Contents spilled, documents, contracts, financial records, emails between defense contractors and congressional staffers. Proof of $20 billion in fraudulent spending over 15 years. Stone stood at the monitors, watching the cameras, watching the woods. Hayes photographed everything, sent it to his commanding officer. That's when things went wrong. Training exercise 2 days later, Hayes continued. Supposed to be routine, live fire maneuvers in the mountains. But someone changed our coordinates, sent us straight into an ambush. Professional shooters, not enemy combatants. Americans, contractors. They knew we were coming, knew our route, knew our strength. Emma's jaw tightened. How many in your team? 6, 3 dead at the scene. 2 wounded. Me with chest trauma. Only reason I survived was Sergeant Rodriguez. She covered our retreat. Took 3 rounds doing that, died before the medevac arrived. The room went quiet. That particular silence that followed naming the dead. The weight of it. Rodriguez, Emma said softly. Maria Rodriguez, Marine Force Recon. I knew her. Hayes stared. You knew her. She was in my combat lifesaver course 10 years ago. Taught her field medicine. Emma looked at Stone. Maria Rodriguez is dead. Stone's face went carefully neutral. Petty Officer Sergeant Maria Rodriguez was KIA 8 months ago. Training accident. There was a funeral. Full honors. When was this training accident? 8 months ago. White Bayou. Emma pulled out her phone, scrolled through photos, found one from 3 months ago. Community center. Veteran support group. Showed it to Stone. A woman, 43 years old. Short dark hair. Tattoos on her arms. Very much alive. Because I saw Maria 3 months ago, Emma said, at a veterans group in Tacoma. She didn't see me, but I saw her. The implications hung in the air. Heavy, dangerous. Stone's eyes narrowed. Are you saying Rodriguez faked her death? Or someone faked it for her, Emma replied. Hayes said Rodriguez died covering their retreat. But if the operation was compromised, if someone wanted witnesses eliminated, Rodriguez might have gone underground, staged her death, became a ghost. Sarah leaned forward. That would explain why Hayes thinks she's dead. Rodriguez made sure everyone thought that. Safer that way. Until now, Emma said. Until we need her. Why wouldn't she come forward? Hayes asked. Why stay hidden? Because coming forward gets you shot in a hospital room. Emma looked at Stone. Who knew Hayes was being moved here? Only myself and Admiral Vaughn. Chain of command ends with him on this operation. The silence that followed was different, colder. The kind that preceded violence. Richard Vaughn, Emma said, not a question, a confirmation of something she'd already suspected. He's JSOC command now. Has been for 18 months. He's the one who ordered me to extract Hayes, ordered me to secure him, ordered me to bring you in as medical support. Stone's hand moved closer to his sidearm. Unconscious movement, body preparing for threat. Petty officer, do you have reason to believe Admiral Vaughn is compromised? Emma was quiet for a long moment, deciding how much to tell, how much to risk. Then she spoke. 2003, Iraq. I was assigned to a SEAL team operating near Fallujah. Vaughn was the officer in charge. We had intel about an insurgent safe house, high-value target. I recommended we wait for better intelligence. Vaughn overruled me, said we needed the win for the press. Went in anyway. She paused, the memory still sharp after all these years. It wasn't a safe house, it was a wedding. 15 civilians dead, 20 wounded. I spent 6 hours trying to save an 8-year-old girl who'd been hit by our fire. She died in my hands. That wasn't in any report I read, Stone said, because I didn't put it in the report, because Vaughn asked me not to, said it would destroy his career, end his ability to serve. I believed him. I believed he'd learned. I believed he'd do better. Emma's hands curled into fists, relaxed, old discipline controlling old anger. I was wrong. He didn't learn. He just learned to hide it better. Sarah moved to the monitors, studied the camera feeds. If Vaughn is compromised, if he's the one who ordered the hit on Hayes, then he knows we're here, knows this location, and he's already planning how to clean up this mess. We need to move, Emma said, now. Stone shook his head. This is the most secure facility we have. Moving Hayes increases risk. Staying here guarantees it. Vaughn knows this place, probably helped build it. He knows the access codes. The security protocols, the blind spots. Emma was already unplugging Hayes from the monitors. Efficient, fast, no wasted motion. How many people can you trust? Absolutely. People who've never served under Vaughn. Never taken his orders. Never been in his chain of command. Stone thought. 4, maybe 5. All junior enlisted. Too low to be worth corrupting. Get them here now. We need transport, weapons, and a place Vaughn doesn't know about. Where? Emma smiled, thin, hard, the smile of someone who'd been planning this moment without knowing it. The place they've been trying to shut down for a decade. The place they think is worthless. The place where old warriors go to die. The VA hospital, Sarah said, understanding dawning. The condemned wing. Exactly, it's been empty for 2 years. City wants to demolish it. Federal government doesn't want to pay for it. It's in bureaucratic limbo, which means no one's watching it. No one cares about it. And it's full of old veterans who know how to keep their mouths shut. Stone was already on his phone, calling his people, arranging extraction. Emma turned to Hayes. Can you walk? Can I stay alive if I don't? No. Hayes swung his legs off the bed, stood, swayed, gritted his teeth. Then I can walk. They moved fast. Stone's team arrived in 2 vehicles, civilian, unmarked, young faces, hard eyes. The kind of operators who didn't ask questions when a senior NCO gave orders. Loading Hayes took 2 minutes. Securing the perimeter took 1. Erasing evidence of their presence took 3. Then they were moving. 2-vehicle convoy through back roads. No highways, no traffic cameras, no digital trail. Emma rode in the lead vehicle, Sarah in the rear with Hayes. Stone between them coordinating by radio. Professional. Calm. But Emma could see the tension, could see Stone processing the implications, that his commanding officer might be trying to kill them, that the entire chain of command might be compromised. That trust was a liability when corruption ran deep enough. They reached Seattle as afternoon bled into evening. The VA hospital loomed gray and tired against a gray sky. Windows boarded, doors chained, signs warning of structural damage and asbestos, and a dozen other reasons to stay away. But Emma had keys, old keys, from when she'd volunteered here 5 years ago, before her shift work made it impossible. before she'd stopped having time for anything except survival. They parked in the loading bay, hidden from the street. Emma unlocked the chain. The door groaned open. Inside smelled of dust and disuse and old pain, the ghosts of 1,000 wounded warriors who'd passed through these halls. Home sweet home, Emma muttered. Led them through corridors she knew by heart, to a room on the third floor, corner position, good sight lines, defensible. They set up Hayes in the old hospital bed. Still there, still functional. Sarah started an IV, checked vitals. Professional. Focused. Emma watched her work, saw the confidence growing, the fear receding. Combat had a way of clarifying things, of burning away doubt and leaving only competence. Stone posted his men, 2 at the stairwell, 2 at the elevators, overlapping fields of fire. Good security for 4 operators. Not enough if Vaughn sent serious numbers. We need more people, Emma said. I can't pull more operators without tipping off command, Stone replied. Anyone I call might report back to Vaughn. I'm not talking about operators. I'm talking about people who know how to fight, who have nothing left to lose, who've been waiting for someone to need them again. Stone stared. You're talking about civilians, veterans, people who are, 50, 60, 70 years old. I'm talking about warriors who never stopped being warriors just because someone took their uniforms. Emma pulled out her phone, started dialing. Maria, it's Emma Sullivan. I know you're alive. I know you're hiding, and I know why. But I need you. We need you. Hayes needs you. Can you come? The answer came after a long pause, then a voice Emma hadn't heard in months. Where? Emma smiled, made another call, then another, then another. 4 calls, 4 conversations, 4 people who said yes without asking why. They'll be here in 90 minutes, Emma said. They'll bring their own gear, their own skills, their own reasons for wanting Vaughn to pay. This is insane, Stone said. This is all we've got. They waited. Emma and Sarah took turns watching Hayes, monitoring his condition, making sure the wound stayed clean, the pain stayed manageable. The kid stayed alive. Tell me about Vaughn, Sarah said during one quiet moment. Just the 2 of them. Hayes sleeping, Stone coordinating security. Emma was quiet, then began. Met him in 2001. I was 25. He was 32, already a rising star. I was assigned to his unit. First female corpsman they'd had. He made sure everyone knew he didn't want me there. What was he like? Smart, ambitious, charismatic, the kind of officer who could inspire people. But he didn't see the line between ambition and recklessness, between confidence and arrogance. Emma stared at her hands. I tried to work with him about responsibility, about the weight of command, about how decisions at the top roll downhill and crush people at the bottom. Did he listen? He listened when it suited him. Fallujah was the first test. He failed, but I covered for him. Thought he deserved a second chance. Thought everyone deserves a second chance. And he went on to make the same choices over and over. Career over people, politics over principles, survival over service. By the time I realized who he'd become, he was too high to touch, too protected, too valuable to the machine. What happened 7 years ago when they forced you out? Emma was quiet for even longer this time, the story sitting heavy in her throat. Finally, she spoke. I found evidence. Same kind Hayes found. Contracts being awarded to companies with no capability to deliver. Money disappearing. All of it tied to Vaughn's operations, we of it sanctioned by him. You reported it. I tried, went through channels, filed formal complaints, requested investigations, and got called into a room with Vaughn and his lawyers and 2 officers from JAG who told me I was making serious accusations against a decorated admiral. Accusations I couldn't prove. That would destroy my career. That would cost me my pension. That would leave my infant daughter without health insurance after my husband had just died. Sarah closed her eyes. He threatened your child. He gave me a choice. Retire quietly, keep my benefits, take care of my daughter, or fight him and watch her grow up in poverty while I rotted in Leavenworth for insubordination. Emma's voice was empty now, hollowed out. I took the deal, hated myself, but I took it. That's not weakness. It's not strength either. It's just survival. And survival without honor is just slow death. Before Sarah could respond, Stone appeared in the doorway, his face tight. We have a problem. Security cameras just picked up movement. 3 blocks away, multiple vehicles, moving this direction. Emma stood. How many baratus? At least 8 vehicles, maybe 40 people. Professional formation, military tactics. Vaughn's contractors. That would be my guess. Umma looked at her watch. Maria and the others wouldn't arrive for another hour. Stone's 4 operators were good, but not enough. Hayes couldn't move. They were trapped in an abandoned hospital with no support and an army approaching. The math didn't work, but math had been wrong before. How long until they reach us? Emma asked. 20 minutes, maybe less. Then we have 20 minutes to turn this hospital into a fortress. Sarah, you stay with Hayes. Keep him stable. Stone, your people know this building. We've been here 3 hours. I've been volunteering here for 5 years. Follow me. They moved through the abandoned wing, Emma pointing out choke points, stairwells that could be blocked, corridors that could be covered, windows that provided sightlines, doors that could be barricaded. This wing was built in 1952, Emma said as they worked. Cold War construction, reinforced concrete, blast-resistant windows, built to survive a nuclear attack, which means it'll survive contractors with small arms, unless they bring explosives. If they bring explosives, they destroy the evidence, destroy Hayes, destroy any chance of proving what Vaughn did. They need us alive long enough to make it look legal, self-defense, resisting federal authority, something clean. So they'll try to breach and clear, which gives us the advantage. We know the ground, they don't. We know the kill zones, they'll learn. They worked fast, moving furniture, creating barriers, establishing overlapping fields of fire, the kind of defensive preparation Emma had done dozens of times in dozens of places, turning chaos into order, weakness into strength. Stone's operators watched in silence, young people seeing an experienced warrior work, seeing competence that came from decades, from survival, from having done this when it mattered most. Ma'am, one of them said, where did you learn this? Everywhere, Emma replied. Iraq, Afghanistan, a dozen places that needed someone to hold ground against people who wanted them dead. She tested a barricade, solid. You learn by doing. You survive by remembering. You teach by showing. Now move that cabinet 3 feet left. It's blocking the crossfire angle. The operator moved the cabinet. No hesitation, no question, just compliance with someone who clearly knew what they were doing. They finished with 10 minutes to spare, took positions, checked weapons, controlled breathing, the pre-combat ritual that every warrior knew, the forced calm before the storm. Emma keyed her radio. Maria, what's your ETA? 40 minutes out, traffic is hell. What's your situation? About to get complicated. How many you bringing? 3 besides me, Carlos Rivera, Thomas Wright, and Jack Sullivan. Yes, that's Sullivan, your old instructor, the retired Master Chief. He heard you needed backup, said he's been waiting for someone to call. Emma felt something loosen in her chest. Jack Sullivan, 68 years old, the man who'd trained her, who'd taught her everything she knew about combat medicine, who'd retired 5 years ago and disappeared. Perfect. When you arrive, come in through the south loading bay. We'll have it covered. Don't get shot by my people. Wouldn't be the first time, Emma smiled. Switch channels. Stone, they're here. Through the barricaded windows, vehicles appeared. Black SUVs, unmarked vans, professional, anonymous. The kind of operation that would disappear from official records the moment it concluded. People emerged. Body armor, tactical gear, suppressed weapons, 40 of them, maybe more. Spreading out, taking positions, preparing to breach. And standing behind them, watching from beside his vehicle, Admiral Richard Vaughn. Even from 3 floors up, Emma recognized him. The way he stood, the way he commanded, the way he observed while others did the bleeding. Target acquired, Stone said over the radio. Vaughn is on scene. Permission to engage. Negative, he's mine. The contractors approached. Cautious, professional. They didn't rush, didn't make noise, just moved with the practiced coordination of people who'd done this many times before. Emma let them come. Let them reach the doors. Let them think they had the advantage. Then the first team breached the south entrance. 4 people. Tactical formation. Professional entry. They made it 3 steps inside before Stone's operators opened fire. Controlled bursts. Precise. Dropping 2. Wounding 1. The 4th retreated. The contractors regrouped. Tried the north entrance. Same result. Stone's people were dug in, knew the angles, had the advantage of position and preparation. But the contractors had numbers and patience. They'd probe, test, find weakness. Eventually they'd break through. Emma knew it. Stone knew it. The question was whether Maria would arrive before the breach succeeded. Contact West Stairwell, one of Stone's operators called. 6 targets. They're pushing hard. Fall back to secondary position, Emma ordered. Let them take the first floor. We hold the second. The operator complied, retreating up the stairs. Controlled withdrawal. Professional. Maintaining fire superiority even while giving ground. The contractors flooded into the first floor, taking rooms, clearing corners, moving like they'd done this 1,000 times, because they had. Emma watched from the second floor, counting, timing, waiting for the right moment. They came up the stairs, 8 of them, tight formation, ready for resistance. Emma let them reach the landing, then triggered the surprise she'd prepared, not explosives. Nothing that would bring the building down. Just an old fire suppression system. Rusted, forgotten, but still functional. Water crashed down, high pressure, industrial volume. The contractors staggered, blinded, confused. Stone's operators opened fire. Not to kill, to wound, to suppress, to drive them back down the stairs in chaos. It worked. The contractors retreated, soaked, angry, regrouping on the first floor, shouting, coordinating, preparing for another push. But now they were cautious. Now they knew the defenders upstairs had tricks, had preparation, had something more than desperation. Emma's radio crackled. Sullivan, this is Rodriguez. We're at the South Bay, ready to breach. Hold position. I'm sending Sarah down to let you in. Don't shoot her. Roger that. Sarah moved fast, down the back stairs, to the loading bay, unlocked the door from inside. Maria and 3 others poured in. Maria Rodriguez, 43 years old, supposed to be dead, very much alive and very much angry. Carlos Rivera, 70 years old, retired Army Ranger, gray beard, eyes still sharp. Thomas Wright, 73, Navy SEAL, silver hair, moving with a cane he used as a weapon. And Jack Sullivan, 68 years old, Emma's old instructor, retired Master Chief, the man who'd taught her everything. Welcome to the party, Sarah said. Jack's eyes found Emma through the chaos. He nodded once. Recognition, respect, pride. Wouldn't miss it, Jack said. Where do you need us? Hit them from behind. Catch them between us and you. They moved. 4 experienced warriors plus 1 supposedly dead Marine. People who'd spent decades waiting to be useful again. Who'd felt invisible and forgotten. Who'd been told they were too old, too slow, too broken. They hit the contractors like a hammer. Not fancy, not by the book, just brutal efficiency from people who'd learned to fight in places where there were no rules except survival. Maria took point. Marine close quarters training. She put 2 contractors down before they knew she was there. Jack Sullivan covered her. Master Chief precision, every shot counting. Carlos and Thomas moved like water, flowing through the case, experience compensating for age. The contractors panicked. They'd expected resistance from Stone's 4 operators, expected defense from 1 woman. They hadn't expected 6 warriors who fought like the building was theirs and everyone else was trespassing. The momentum shifted. The contractors pulled back, regrouped outside, tried to assess, tried to understand how 40 professionals were being held off by 11 people. Vaughn's voice boomed through a megaphone. Emma Sullivan, I know you are in there. This doesn't have to end badly. Release Hayes, release the evidence. Walk away. You've made your point. Emma appeared at a window, looked down at Vaughn, at the man who'd commanded her, the man who'd betrayed everything she'd tried to make him understand. Richard, Emma called back, her voice carrying without amplification. Command voice, you tried to kill Hayes. You tried to cover up $20 billion in fraud. You let good people die at Ashfall Pass because it was convenient. This ends one of 2 ways, you in handcuffs or you in a body bag. Choose. Vaughn's face went hard. You're outnumbered. You're outgunned. You're a washed-up corpsman playing soldier. Surrender now and I'll make sure you get a fair trial. Fight and I'll make sure your daughter grows up an orphan. Emma's hand tightened on the window frame. The threat against Sophie, against her child. But she didn't flinch, didn't show fear. You just made this personal, Richard, Emma said. Cold, final. Big mistake. She disappeared from the window. Keyed her radio. Everyone hold positions. This is going to get loud. Vaughn gave the order. The contractors charged. All of them. Coordinated assault. Multiple entry points. Overwhelming force. They breached the first floor again. flooded the stairwells, pushed hard, professional, determined, ready to end this, and found themselves in a maze, in corridors that the defenders knew and they didn't, in kill zones prepared by someone who'd spent years volunteering in this building, who knew every corner, every angle, every weakness. The battle was chaos, close quarters, brutal. Emma fought alongside warriors both younger and older than her, matched them, sometimes exceeded them. 20 years of training, 20 years of skill, never forgotten, just waiting. She put down 3 contractors, wounded 2 more, took a round through her sleeve, didn't slow, didn't stop, just kept moving, kept fighting, kept the pressure on. Beside her, Jack Sullivan laughed, actually laughed. Just like old times, Emma. You're crazy, Master Chief. I'm alive, first time in 5 years. They pushed the contractors back, again, the defenders refusing to give ground. Experience teaching youth, watching how tactics beat strength, how cunning replaced speed. The contractors broke, not from casualties, from psychology, from the impossibility of what they were seeing. A middle-aged woman and a handful of old warriors holding ground they shouldn't be able to hold. Winning a battle the math said they'd lost before it started. They retreated, Vaughn screaming orders, losing control, losing the moment, losing everything. Emma appeared at the window again, blood on her sleeve, dust in her hair, but standing, unbroken. Last chance, Richard. Walk away, face justice, or I come down there and end this itself. Vaughn stared up at her, at the woman he'd tried to break, the one he'd threatened, the one he'd thought was finished. For a moment, something like doubt crossed his face, like he was seeing who Emma had always been, who he'd forgotten. The warrior who'd survived 7 deployments, not because she was lucky, but because she was better. Then pride took over, the pride that had driven every bad choice for 40 years. Kill them, Vaughn ordered. All of them. I don't care how, just end this. But before they could move, before the battle could resume, new sounds filled the air. Sirens, helicopters, the roar of vehicles approaching fast, federal vehicles, FBI, military police, arriving in force. Stone appeared beside Emma. I called them 30 minutes ago, told them everything. They were already building a case. This just gave them probable cause. Emma watched as FBI agents swarmed Vaughn's position, watched as contractors dropped weapons and raised hands, watched as Vaughn realized he'd lost. That trying to bury the evidence had exposed him completely. Vaughn's eyes found Emma's across the distance. Hate there, and something else. Defeat, understanding. That she'd outplayed him, that the corpsman he'd dismissed had beaten him. Emma held his gaze, didn't smile, didn't gloat, just stood there. 45 years old, middle-aged, invisible no more. Vaughn was taken away in handcuffs, his contractors disarmed and arrested, the evidence secured, Hayes safe, the battle over. Emma slumped against the wall, everything catching up, the adrenaline fading, the cost of the fight settling into her bones. Jack Sullivan sat beside her. That was something, Emma. That was necessary. Same thing. He looked at her, really looked. I'm proud of you. I trained a lot of corpsmen, but you were always the best. I learned from the best, Master Chief. They sat in silence, teacher and student, both warriors, both tired, both alive. Sarah found them there. Hayes is stable. The FBI has taken him. There's someone here who wants to talk to you. A woman in a Navy uniform appeared. Commander's insignia. Late 40s. Patricia Wade, JAG officer. Petty Officer Sullivan, Wade said. You've had quite a night. Yes, ma'am. I need to know something. During the siege, did Admiral Vaughn say anything incriminating? Emma reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone. I recorded everything from the moment he threatened my daughter, every word. Wade took the phone, listened. Her face went hard. This puts him away for life, Wade said quietly. You know that good, Emma said. He's earned it. 6 months passed like water through fingers. The VA hospital was rebuilt, not abandoned anymore, not condemned, renovated, expanded, transformed into something new. The Sullivan Combat Medicine Institute, named after Emma over her protests, funded by emergency congressional appropriation after Vaughn's trial revealed how much money had been stolen from veteran services. Emma stood in the main lecture hall, 80 seats, all full, young medics, Navy, Army, Marines, Air Force, all here to learn from warriors who'd been there, who'd done it, Who had the scars to prove it? Sarah stood beside her co-director. Lieutenant now, her confidence fully restored. She'd grown into the role. Natural teacher, patient but demanding, kind but uncompromising. Jack Sullivan sat in the front row. Lead instructor for tactical medicine. 68 years old, refusing to fully retire, saying he'd sleep when he was dead. Ready? Sarah asked. Never, Emma said. She looked at the students, at their young faces, their eagerness, their fear. But that's the point, isn't it? If you're always ready, you're not pushing hard enough. They walked to the front of the hall together. The students quieted, straightened. Something about Emma's presence commanded attention. Something about the way she carried herself. The way 20 years of service lived in her bearing and her eyes. Welcome, Emma said, her voice carrying without effort. My name is Emma Sullivan. This is Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell. We're here to teach you how to keep people alive when everything is trying to kill them. She paused. Let that sink in. Some of you are here because you want to be heroes. Forget that. Heroes die, usually doing something stupid. We're not training heroes, we are training professionals. Sarah stepped forward. Some of you are here because you think combat medicine is exciting. Forget that too. Combat medicine is terrifying. It's working with shaking hands and inadequate equipment while people are shooting at you. It's making impossible choices about who lives and who dies. It's carrying those choices for the rest of your life. But, Emma continued, if you can get past the hero fantasy and the excitement and the fear, if you can focus on the mission, on the training, on doing one thing right in the middle of everything going wrong, then you'll save lives, and saving lives is the only thing that matters. A hand went up. Young airman, barely 20. Ma'am, is it true you were just an ER nurse before this? Emma smiled. Yes. Why, bio? Because I made choices, some good, some necessary, some I'm still living with. She looked at the young man, really looked. Don't wait until you're 45 to remember why you signed up. Don't spend years being invisible when you could be making a difference. Another hand. Female Marine, determined looking. What made you come back? A 19-year-old SEAL dying in a trauma bay, and the realization that I could help, and the choice to do it even though it cost me everything I'd built hiding. Did you regret it? The Marine asked. Emma thought about that, about the trial, about testifying against Vaughn, about watching a man she'd served under get sentenced to 30 years, about the media scrutiny, about missing 6 months of Sophie's life. Then she thought about Marcus Hayes alive and well, now training other SEALs, about Sarah confident in whole teaching others, about the 80 students in this room, about Jack Sullivan mentoring the next generation, about Maria Rodriguez finally able to come out of hiding, about Sophie sitting in the back row having taken a day off school to watch her mom teach. 16 years old, pride in her eyes instead of fear. No, Emma said. I don't regret it. Coming back cost me a quiet life, but it gave me back my purpose, my honor, my connection to something bigger than myself. It gave me a legacy. She stepped back. Let Sarah and Jack take over. Watch them teach. Watch the students learn. Watch the transfer of knowledge from one generation to the next. After class, Sophie approached. They'd talked. A lot. 6 months of real conversations. Of Emma finally being honest about who she was, what she'd done, what she'd sacrificed. Mom, Sophie said, that was amazing. Emma pulled her daughter into a hug. You sure you're okay with all this? With me being this, Sophie pulled back, looked her mother in the eyes. Mom, I've always known who you were, even when you were pretending to be just a nurse. I saw the way you moved, the way you thought, the way you couldn't turn off being a warrior. She smiled. I'm proud of you for finally being yourself again. I love you, baby. I love you too, Mom. Now go build something that matters. Sophie left to catch her ride back to school. Emma stood in the empty lecture hall, sun streaming through windows, the silence peaceful now. Not empty, just quiet. Her phone buzzed. Email from Marcus Hayes. Ma'am, just wanted you to know, I'm teaching my first class next week. Combat medicine for SEAL candidates. Using your curriculum, your methods, your voice is in my head every time I explain something. Thank you for saving my life, not just that night in the trauma bay, but every day since. You showed me what service really means, what honor costs. Semper Fi. Hayes. Emma read it twice, then closed her laptop, stood, stretched, felt every one of her 45 years in her bones and her joints, but also felt something else, something lighter, something that made everything worth it. Purpose. She walked to her office. Small space, cluttered with medical textbooks and training manuals and photos of graduates. Jack was there, going over lesson plans. "You did good today, Emma," Jack said. "We did good," Emma corrected. "Fair enough." Jack set down his papers. "You know what the best part is?" "What?" "You're 45 years old, in your prime. And instead of wasting it being invisible, you're building something that'll outlive both of us. Training people who'll train people. Saving lives you'll never meet. That's the point, isn't it? Legacy isn't about being remembered. It's about what continues after we're gone." Jack nodded. "Spoken like a true Master Chief." Emma smiled. "I learned from the best." Later that evening, Emma sat in her small apartment, the one she'd lived in for 7 years. Sophie was at her desk doing homework. Emma was on the couch with a cup of tea. Normal, domestic, peaceful, but different now, because Emma wasn't hiding anymore, wasn't pretending to be something she wasn't living half a life. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then did. "Sullivan." "Emma, it's Patricia Wade. I wanted to let you know the tribunal reached a verdict today. Vaughn got 35 years, no parole. He'll die in Leavenworth." Emma absorbed that, felt nothing, no joy, no satisfaction, just a closure. "Thank you for letting me know, Commander. There's something else. The Secretary of the Navy wants to reinstate you. Full rank, back pay. They want you to run the Institute as active duty, not as a civilian contractor." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "Can I think about it?" "Take your time. But Emma, you deserve this. You earned this." The call ended. Emma sat with it. The offer, the recognition, the vindication. Sophie looked up from her homework. "What was that about?" "They want me back, full-time, active duty." "What are you going to say?" "Well, I don't know. Part of me wants it. Wants the validation, the respect, the uniform." Emma set down her phone. "But another part likes being civilian. Likes having control over my life. Likes being able to say no." "What do you want, Mom?" "Not what they want. Not what's expected. What do you actually want?" Emma thought about that, really thought. "I want to teach," she said finally. "I want to build the Institute. I want to train the next generation. But I want to do it my way, without the bureaucracy, without the politics, without having to ask permission to do what's right. Then do that. It's that simple. It's that simple." Emma smiled, pulled out her phone, texted Wade back. "Thank you for the offer, but I'm declining. I'll run the Institute as a civilian, on my terms, with my team, building something that matters more than rank." The reply came quickly. "Understood." And Emma, that might be the bravest choice of all. Emma set down her phone, looked at her daughter, at her small apartment, at the life she'd built. Not perfect, not glamorous, not the story anyone would tell at award ceremonies. But real, true, hers. A woman who'd been invisible and dismissed and written off, who chose to rebuild herself into something that mattered, something that would save lives long after her heart stopped beating, and that Emma thought was enough. More than enough, it was everything.